Please hang up and call 911.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Momentum Mindset Show, where we're talking everything personal development, coaching, health, and the law. I'm your host, Jay, here with co-host Janine.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Please join us on Facebook, where we can be found at the Momentum Mindset Show. And if you want to call in and be part of the show, we would love to hear from you. It's 888-565-1470. And if being on live radio is not your thing, no problem. Send us your comments and we will interact with you on Facebook.
Let's create some momentum. Welcome to the Momentum Mindset
everybody.
Show. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, everyone. It is the 10th of January. We're 10 days into 2020.
Yep.
Experiencing a little bit of a 2019 hangover.
How was your week?
And
oh boy.
yeah, so how is everybody doing? We have experienced some technical issues. So we were expecting to launch the Verdict TV today, and we will stay tuned with announcements on to when that's going to happen once we've worked out some kinks and snags and all kinds of little different things that show up. But we wanted to show up for you anyway, because that's our commitment. And
I wore my black shirt.
That's what Momentum is about. Actually, I wore my black something under here, and I was going to have. I brought my outfit. I just want to let y'all know.
I actually had a conversation. I was thinking about wearing a couple like that would be my gig. You know, ever heard of like a gig? So everybody have a gig, like if you're in show business, like you have like a like
your showbiz outfit.
So I was
like
when I was in the Verdict, when I was in the Verdict over the summer, I was doing this. I was rocking this black outfit, and yeah. I think it was pretty awesome because I was having going this like vigilante lawyer
look.
Concept, you know. The anti James Bond type thing, kind of James Bond.
I was going to say more James Bond, not so much anti. Yeah.
You know what you know what I sent you a video today about something.
Oh, that was hilarious.
And
Jay resurrected some really interesting memories. I want to say this. I don't know if it's a man thing, but I think that men have the most amazing minds for capturing things on video from movies and quotes from movies specifically. I've realized that over the years, a lot of that information, a lot of the movies that I used to watch as a young person, they meant so much to me at the time, but I brain dumped them a while ago. But I'm always so impressed with how deeply ingrained these scenes are from you. And I know you're not alone. So
scenes, okay, so like
scenes from movies or things like that.
I can tell you that pretty much everything you need to know in life comes from Ghostbusters, Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Indeed.
License to Drive. And Caddyshack. I mean, wait. Anchorman.
Oh, okay. So Jay also a number of years ago introduced me to Anchorman. So here's the thing: I love Will Ferrell, but I had not been privy to the Anchorman enterprise.
Really?
And you introduced me to that, and I was very sure that I was going to hate it because I'm sure it was going to be slapstick and kind of like Airplane, and it's not really my cup of tea, etc. I loved it.
Yeah.
It was good. There were some really good liners. And anyway.
So here's the thing with that.
Here's the thing.
I grew up in a very unreligious household, right? So y'all out there who studied the Bible, I hear like all these quotes like John 3:16 and that's like one of the books in the Bible. Okay. The New
Sorry, we
Testament.
were told
John?
to get a little closer.
Oh, okay. So, you know how I was like, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, there's these things called this thing called the Bible, and then wait a second, this is important. So wait, hear me out. So like they have this Bible, right? And it's got marked up in very easy to remember, like numbers, like so it was like John 3:16, which is.
I think this is what enrolled you into Christianity, but we'll get there.
So I love to count stuff. I didn't grow up in one of those households that had a bunch of quotes from this Bible, right? So,
also known as the Bible.
All right.
But, okay.
All right. But what I did have a lot of, was Married with Children. You remember the sitcoms Alf, Different Strokes?
Alf.
Okay.
A personal favorite.
Yeah, because he's one of my alien. So I learned to quote stuff that I knew I was going to need in life by watching movies. Okay? I mean, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop once in a while to look around, you might just miss it. I mean, come on. What else do you need to know?
I know, it's very classical.
One sentence.
That movie is actually really near and dear. My late, very Colombian mother.
I don't know how to tell you this.
And she laughed so hard, and I remember being mortified as a child because she had a really extra laugh, and I remember being embarrassed in a pitch dark movie theater because she was laughing so loud. But she took us to see that movie 3 times.
Yeah.
It's big.
Okay, so
anyway.
so that in that one sentence I just shared with you.
Yes,
you can,
that's a beautiful
another one.
scene.
I don't know how to tell you this, but I'm kind of a big deal. People know me. I have many leather-bound books at my apartment.
Okay, first of all,
I mean, that's Anchorman.
so much.
So as far as the
Yes,
pickup
yes.
line for guys who are struggling out there,
please, first of all, the suggestion is pick a woman with a sense of humor.
Right.
Okay. Who
Okay.
was that? Jonathan?
okay.
I weep for the future. Ferris Bueller's Day Off. That's right. I remember
Okay,
that line.
and so that's what I had growing up, and it served me well because there are things that come up. So today we had, over the last couple of days, we had some excellent learning experiences in our entrepreneurial journey.
Yes.
And this is the year, or that's what it's shaping up to be, is standing up for myself, claiming my worth, and accepting my worth, and defending my worth.
Yes. And, and in business, it ends up being our worth, right? So it's the worth of you, the attorney, and it's the worth of everybody who's in collaboration with you, because
Right.
ultimately we get to dictate that. And that's been a very visceral thing for me as well in the last several weeks, really just coming into a space where something inside of me is it's knocking. And at first, you say this very very well. You say at first your soul or the universe or God or whatever it is, source, will come and it will, kind of graze you with a feather. Mm-hmm. And then it will, what's the next thing?
Then it will slap you with a ruler.
Right. Okay, what's the next thing?
Then it'll hit you over the head with a baseball bat.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. So.
And eventually it'll knock your ass over with the dump truck.
Right. So I'm one step before that, right. And my inner being, my soul, my highest self, whatever it is really just kind of all right, this is as far as we're willing to go with you in the trajectory that you're going. Either you get on board with us and claim your worth and actually be the person that we created you to be, or we're out. It's really,
oh, no, they're not out.
Really?
No, they have other tools.
No.
See, I got hit by that dump truck, but there's something else out there that we're going through right now. So I don't think that if you're about to say that the universe leaves you alone with lessons, I don't think so. I think it keeps coming at you, and hits you and hits you and hits you. Oh boy.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay, first of all, I wasn't going to say that.
Okay.
I wasn't going to say that at all. What I was saying is that what my own personal experience before the dump truck incident is trying to, I think, really save me before I get that far. And every fiber of my being is like, oh, hell no. And so there's something going on inside of me that's kind of like, okay, you get to claim it. You get to say what you've never said before. You get to really, and sometimes it's not going to be elegant. It's not going to be beautiful, but it's going to be honest. And it's going to be in the service of yourself and everybody around you. Because ultimately, what you had been doing before is not really, it's not working. And it's not really working for you, me, and ultimately it doesn't really work for anybody. So I don't know about the universe's lessons. I don't really feel like I'm in a space to comment on that at present, because I really feel like we're in the midst of a huge discovery, and I don't really want to say one way or the other.
See, no, Ferris was bringing up something about the universe. I mean, if you remember that his sister got a car, remember that? And he got a computer. And I think that ended up, working out pretty well for him, because I remember the best thing was when he hacked into the computer at school to erase his 9 absences. Or was that Ferris Bueller? Because Matthew Broderick was.
I don't remember.
Let me tell you something. He knows computers. Do you remember War Games?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh my God, this is
so
another
he
movie
changed
that
his grades
changed
in
your
War
life.
Games, and he erased his 9 absences in.
Ferris Bueller.
Ferris Bueller. So what I'm not shared this, but I'm just going to do right now. This is like an inside thing that only someone who might have worked for a clandestine agency would know, is that actually Ferris Bueller Day Off was the sequel to War Games. Did you know that?
Okay.
Because there's a quote in War Games that sums up what I was talking about last night on Facebook. Okay.
Okay.
And it was said,
so for those people who have not read your Facebook post, would you like to fill us in and kind of, for everybody?
So what I wrote about on Facebook, and I've been on about a year and 10 months of a diatribe on Facebook every single night, and I hope that some people that read it and relate to it. Last night, the quote was, "Watch your language."
Oh,
and it was
okay.
and I started out by saying, about a week ago, I said to my mother on Sunday night, I said, "Mom, I'm the happiest I've ever been," and I meant it. And then something inside of me said, "When does this end?" Or, "I don't want this to end. I don't. When is the other shoe going to drop?" I don't want to have those thoughts of being not enough again. And within days,
Yeah.
I designed, from a place of accountability, I designed my emotional home once again, because I had this thing, everybody has this emotional home that no matter how painful it is, we keep returning to it. And an emotional home means that my normal is suffering and pain and not enough and depression and anxiety and pessimism.
And fear.
So I'm at this absolute, like, blissful, and I call it bliss, it's beyond happiness on Sunday night, where I just look at my life, I'm like, wow, what a beautiful world that I created. And then within days, one thing led to another, where my life experience last night was the lowest that I could possibly, that I've been in a very long time. So I wrote about this thing called Watch Your Language. And I said that I've heard in all of this work that we do in personal development that when you say you don't want something, the universe doesn't understand the word don't, doesn't, or no.
It delivers what you focus on. So the not wanting of it is a huge point of attraction. And the universe, as is your brain, is super obedient. So part of the work, a lot of the work that I do is actually study this very thing. And in fact, the moment you recognized your bliss and then questioned it was the very moment you set yourself up to experience what you experienced this week.
Which is what so it gets me to this point about this Ferris Bueller, sorry, guys, War Games quote. I said that I've had an issue buying into all this woo-woo stuff over this journey of transformation. I said to myself that this woo-woo stuff is...
What part of it is woo-woo? Could you explain that
because
to people?
the
I'm
universe
not really
is
sure.
listening to don't... Why can't the universe... If the universe is so intelligent, it would understand the English language and saying, if I don't want something, don't give it to me.
Actually, so interesting. So it turns out that energy doesn't understand language. It only understands what's like.
Woo-woo.
It's energy.
Right. This is what I'm talking about, the woo-woo. and what I was writing about last night, hang on, you'll like this part, is that I'm willing to believe because results don't lie. I keep returning to the same emotional home, and I would prefer to be someplace else.
Right.
That means that there's something to this language business, and I've had a foul mouth basically my entire life. What I mean by foul mouth is that I keep saying what I don't want, and that what I don't want
And it
shows
keeps
up.
on showing up.
Okay, so I'm willing to buy something else. With the quote in, I don't know how much I can say this on the air, but I'll say, I would pee on the spark plug if I thought it would do any good. But it says a little bit different. I mean, that's basically what it is. I'm willing to do today what I wasn't willing to do yesterday if it means that I get to escape from my normal emotional home, which is catastrophe, pessimism, fear.
Yeah, I get it. I get that. And part of what I've been going through, and we shared a little bit last week, and part of my thing with Jay and our partnership is, your catastrophizing is not welcome in my life because I don't want it. I don't need it. It doesn't work for me. It doesn't serve us. It certainly doesn't serve you. And it was kind of like a line in the sand that I drew in service to us, because when you are in the space, when you share space with somebody so much, everything that the other one goes through is extremely contagious. Joy is contagious. Fear is contagious. Depression is contagious. Like, all of these things are known facts. It's not woo-woo, it's not anything. It's just fact, right?
But the reversal should be true too.
Well, exactly. That's why I say, like, joy is. So, I am vigilant about the language portion of it, because what I'm becoming extremely conscious of is the same way I created an experience that I am not enjoying, I can create an experience that I can enjoy. And I find that over the course of this week, I'm also pushing up against some big challenges, and I have managed to find pockets where I jump out of the fear, the otherwise very panicky feelings that can be created from what we're experiencing. So I'm starting to play in that realm, and it's remarkable when I can actually extricate myself and change my energy. I haven't had enough practice to say that, one way or the other, that that everything is fallen in line. But I've experienced for the conscious creating of that, and being so hyper focused in the moment that everything else falls away. So it's possible. Listen, the whole woo-woo conversation is a really interesting conversation. I mean, we can say that about anything. Yeah, any of our beliefs, or any number of our beliefs, are weird. We all have we have weird beliefs. We've always, human beings have always given their power away to other sources, to, every religion in the world gives it away to an external God. We have just really interesting beliefs as human beings. Culturally, all of us believe in different things. Doesn't make one culture more correct than the other. Science then steps in and explains a lot of that, and quantum physics, to me, I've always been fascinated by, because it really explains God, or the way most religious people would understand God, actually. So it's a really interesting thing. I think our beliefs are, yet what's woo-woo to one is perfectly normal to another. So I think it's what ends up working for you and working for any one individual. And when things don't work, we get to look at changing a belief system in order to create an experience that is pleasant and joyful and peaceful, if that's what you want. Some people want something completely different. Some people are complete adrenaline junkies and would hate Zen and peace and blah, blah, blah. They want something different. My point is, like, to create a life where you feel secure in being happy, and not and not be so, and not be concerned that in your happiness you then have to worry about losing it. That, to me, would be also blissful.
Some of the things that have happened in the last week show the power of the neural pathways that support the emotional homes or transferring from one to the other. This journey of being an entrepreneur, transformation, personal development, once you're in this, I don't know if there's a way to ever go back, but I had this conversation with myself the other day. I'm like, sometimes you just want to get plugged back into whatever it was that allowed you to disconnect and not know.
How come? Okay, that's a really interesting conversation. How come?
Because...
What do you think might be better in that scenario?
Because I had this feeling like I'm so miswired, that I'm so miswired. Like you just said, and it tagged me for a second about like my catastrophizing, isn't welcome in your space or something along those lines. And I'm thinking to myself, that catastrophizing, that automatic response, something like that, is like such that I'm doing everything that I can to have shifted that. But that is something that it's like you're driving down the road and your alignment's off, and you're steering this one way, and no matter how much you keep this steering going this way, your alignment's off. It's naturally wants to go to the left or to the right. Okay, and so that was like, when you know that you've done everything you possibly can, and it's just how you show up, and it's just consistent. And it's like, and after 3 years of doing this work, it's like, you know what? I enjoyed the ride, but plug me back in, because I'm tired of being so aware. And it was easier just to be
check out
dead, because you could be alive and still be dead. I mean, have you lived in South Florida? I mean, you've seen.
Yeah. So listen, look, there's a distinction, right, between, for example, in the using of the catastrophizing it's not that your catastrophizing is not going to happen or whatever, because it's 40-something years of programming. I think what I mean by that, too, is like, A, me not reacting to it. I own that. You don't, number one. And then just being thoughtful about where it's channeled, right? So that's really more what I mean, because I don't anymore pretend than you that my 40-year-old habits are going to just like vanish because one day I decided to, whatever. In fact, they don't. They generally don't. I mean, I react, and then you said something really interesting last week, which I think is so beneficial to repeat, which is I'm not responsible for my first reaction, but I am responsible for my second. So in other words, like, I could make up all kinds of stories about your catastrophizing, but I'm responsible, and yeah, I could react to it really quickly and be like, rah, but I'm responsible for the second reaction. So like, I can give myself my human for a second, and then I can go back and transform it into what I need it to be for me, for my own peace of mind. Do you see what I'm saying? So I think it's more about that, and it's not so much a warning to you of any kind. It's more like I get to transform how I take that information, especially because I know it's such an ingrained habit that is a lot of times, depending on the circumstance, beyond your control, just like my reactions are beyond my control at certain points. And it's going to take a lot of practice to get a rein on that. And being mindful of what I want to experience. And that helped me lead the way. So, you have a question?
Oh, we got to go to commercial.
We gotta go to commercial.
We'll be right back after these messages.
Standing up to corporate bullies, using innovative, aggressive, and effective strategies to resolve disputes effectively and timely. Contact us at 954-252-9818, online at farrelllawfirm.com, and on Facebook at Farrell Law Firm. We look forward to being of service to you.
You've been listening to the Momentum Mindset Show
with Jay and Janine. Give us a call at 888-565-1470. And now back to the show. Okay. And we are back.
Welcome back to the Momentum
We
Mindset
were
Show.
still on there on the live, but so yeah.
For those of you that are listening in Radio Land, you just missed the what is it called? The behind the scenes of the Momentum Mindset Show.
That's true.
Where
Behind the
Janine takes out her teaser. If you all ever notice, like I'm so like energetic when we come back from commercial, well, you know.
It was a little, extra.
It was yeah. So it's been a little. Speaking of extra, I don't know if we've ever had a segment of the show of things that we just want to get off our chest, and maybe if it, and that you just I just want to rant for a little bit. But Americans are lazy, and also
Where did that come from?
And seemingly just lose their commitments during the holiday season, like most of all. And I just want to just do a special shout out to every single body that celebrates a holiday. That takes a day off or that has an excuse for the holidays to not, do things. It's seemingly like when you have 2 weeks of holidays, especially with one day, it's like Wednesday you have off, and then the following week they have the off. It's like things just shut down for 2 weeks, and people's minds shut down for 2 weeks. And I think that's why there's a few people that are in our space that are still in process about a few things.
Yes, and is that a good or bad thing? I don't know. I mean, here we are. We were discussing this today, I think it was, that the American workforce is the most overworked workforce in the world, and the most inefficient.
This is a conversation I do want to have.
So this is really, really interesting. What does that tell you? It tells you that physical presence at a job of any kind is not the same as actual presence.
Yes.
And presence, being truly present to anything, is where productivity lives. It's where efficiency lives. It's where effectiveness lives. So, for example, in Europe, they've now adopted very different manners of working. And I remember several years ago, many years ago now, I spent a lot of time in France. I was in France maybe every other month for a period of time. And then at some point, I actually lived there for about 3 months. And I remember experiencing my Americanness because I was upset that so many things were closed on Sunday. I'm like, this is just stupid. But then I would go to the parks and see people actually in the park having a really good time playing this French game called Paton, which is like a bowling game or whatever. And just people having a very different life experience. And I'm not saying that French people don't drop dead from stress and heart attacks and all kinds of other things, but it's a very different experience. And I noticed my Americanness of my 24-hour mentality. Like, why do they close? Why is there only one pharmacy open in the entire neighborhood? And I remember being consistently annoyed by their lack of 24-hourness. So, but there's something to be said. Like, who's right, who's wrong? I don't know. I don't know. And I'm very interested to see where you were going with the whole Americans are lazy thing.
I mean, listen, where I was going is that, as a small business owner, and for all of you, the entrepreneurs that are listening in, and, we get some comments about this, about like cash flow into a small business. And it's like when you're depending on certain things that come through.
Well, you were depending on people to be their word.
Well, it's their word, but it's also like, hey, when things.
And their commitments.
But then how do you handle that? Because there's listen, for us this last couple of weeks, because we are invested so much in our business, if 3 or 4 or 5 people decide it's the holidays and I'll get you something like the following week or the following week, it has a domino effect on everything else that we do, how our employees get paid.
And it shows also the interconnectedness between all of us,
right.
And the interdependence.
And so it's one of the things you're saying about the American productivity, and one of the things that I'm committed to this year is to be as productive as I possibly can. We were talking about a 4-day work week with somebody today, and I don't I want to work productively, efficiently,
Yeah.
and only 4 days a week.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. I think that's brilliant. And she was saying, actually, it was our associate, and she was saying
She was
that
talking about
a 10-hour 4-day work week seems to be one of the most efficient ways to work.
Some of the things that I've noticed in the law business is that I'll get emails at 3:00 in the morning. I'll get emails, and then there's an email back from a partner at these large law firms, and it's a race to the nobody sleeps type thing, and to show how committed you are. And that started to happen to me at my last job, where we were emailing stuff at 2:00 in the morning, and then I was up, and you get up to go to use the restroom in the middle of the night, and you see your phone. It's like, oh, let me get back to this partner, so he knows that I don't sleep, and then
who can die younger?
And you can get really burnt out.
Yeah.
But there is a better way. There is a better way. And through this process, when we say I'm in process, I mean, it gets frustrating as a small business owner as you think that you're going along. There's going to be these times where there's going to be hiccups. There's going to be bumps in the road. And the question is, do you show up at 9:00 in the morning? Or do you not? I mean, it's a test of commitment. And I guess where I was going with, I'm going to circle back with everything else, is that it's hard, it's challenging, it's going to test every single fiber of your soul to shift your way of being. If you have been going on that program for your adult career, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, something's ticking at me. The universe has more for me. I don't know what that is, but it's knocking on my skull at night. Yeah, I want to say I don't know, a few months when you're on fire and it's the honeymoon phase, it's great.
Yeah.
And then if you're seriously committed, most people dip out of this race of being an entrepreneur saying it's for other people. I wasn't lucky enough. The things just don't happen for me.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to start blaming your way out of this game.
Yep. Blaming, excusing.
And there's always someone to blame, and blame feels good. Shaming somebody else feels good. Abdicating your accountability feels good because it feels like a weight that's lifted.
Yeah, it's like you're off the hook somehow.
And this is, I guess, where I was saying, it's like it hurts to be aware. It hurts that part of you that wants you to be that consistent, dialed into the matrix, whatever that is, life form. That's got to die for you to get to where you want to go. That part of you that is used to that comfort of disconnection.
Comfortably numb.
Right.
Or comfortably in pain, or pick your poison, pick your flavor, right? I was listening to something today, and it talks about just that, the story we tell ourselves about who we are and the identity. So this young man was talking about how he identified as someone with ADHD and completely distracted and needed to be medicated and needed to, not to say that those things are not real, but he said that the story of that took him to a really, really dark place. And then he started to use it as a crutch. And then he started to use it. And it became such a narrow point of identity that he stopped seeing other possibilities. And when he did some deep subconscious work, he changed that story, and an entire world of possibility opened up for him because he elected to see beyond that particular identity. So it's a really interesting topic in a world of infinite possibility that we can choose and create. And in certain moments, like we've experienced this week, it feels like...
But and I think that, like we talk about in the show, we were just brutally honest about how things are showing up. I mean, it sucks everything out of you at times.
Yeah.
And you're not able to meet the commitments that you made, and it could be a spiraling effect such that you don't want to get out of bed. You don't want to get to work because you get this like, why? Why is it that I'm going through all of this transformation to this, to that? I mean, there are moments of just absolute bliss, and then there's about 90% of it that looks like this, where it's just you don't know where the next dollar is coming from. You've lost like this hope, and then your faith is tested, and then it's like, why? why am I doing this? You know, and I tell myself, I'm standing up for people and blah, blah, blah. But ultimately, even that doesn't work. And I go back to to David Goggins' book about finding that why when you're on mile 100 of a 130-mile race. It's like, why am I putting myself through all of this? What is the whole point of this? And then you find and muster some reason for that moment. So when you talk to me in the office today and you're like, what's your why? And I sent you this clip of Lethal Weapon where one of the guys was like, he's asking the guy, like, are you crazy? Are you crazy? And he's like, are you asking me if I want to off myself? And he's like, yeah. And then and was it Mel Gibson?
Mel Gibson and Danny Glover.
Danny Glover, right? And he puts a gun to his head and he starts to pull the trigger, and then Danny Glover slaps the gun away. He's like, yeah, you are crazy. And he's like, yeah. He's like, you know why I don't do it? You know why I don't off myself? It's the job, man. It's gonna make you laugh, but it's the job. And I wrote you a text, and I said, it's the job. It's my why, and the job is the moving forward. It's getting past the next thing. It's the mountain. It's not what I can do for other people, and that's a story, and it sounds good that I like to support people to find their voice, and I do, and that's great, but I don't do this for anybody else. Because I brought that back to myself after you asked me, like, why, and I don't do it for you, and I don't do it for for anybody else out there, because that doesn't work in times like this. It's not that story about saving kids across the world. I mean, great, it might happen, but that's not my why. My why is so personal to me. It's like, because I can't stand to fail. I can't. I don't like the feeling of not going that extra mile or doing that extra rep. I know that I have something else in me, and it's a challenge. So maybe it's not the work; it's the challenge that keeps me going.
Yeah.
Because everything else goes and fades away, and it's easy to just say, you know what? Because the things that you think matter, for me it comes and goes. My feelings about things come and go.
Sure.
But my feelings about doing the work and being here, and then that feeling of sitting back and knowing that you put everything into that day, no matter what it looked like. There's nothing like that.
Yeah.
And I know that it challenges some people to understand, like, well, you don't do that for your kids, or you don't do that for your wife, or do this for do this for your country, do this for the... Okay. That might work for a little bit, but there's a part of me that knows that's inauthentic for me to say I'm doing it for somebody else.
Yeah, and I think that you said something so key, which is my why is personal to me. So for some people, I think of people in the armed forces, or people who are put their lives on the line. I think they have a different why, that their why is collapsed on something else. The point is, we all have our own individual why. For me, right now, I recognize that my why is a deep-seated curiosity to how much I got. And it's not like, bring it, I know I'm the strongest person on the planet. No, it's more like, I'm really curious at this point in my life of what I can create, how far I can go, and really ambition, pure ambition. The kind of that I think I was always too afraid or maybe polite to admit to. And that's actually been a very liberating feeling for me lately, to admit that I'm super ambitious and that I'm willing to show up every day in service to that ambition also, to create something amazing, to generate a fantastic income, to make a difference, to be able to then go off and work on different projects that I want to work on, and make a name for myself, make a name for us, for the firm, for all of those things are part of the curiosity that fuels me. Like, all right, girl, keep going. You got more in the tank. There's something here for you. And that sort of curiosity has really opened me up to more courage than I ever thought I had. More courage. In fact, if you ask one of my old boyfriends, he probably would have said to you years ago, Janine's a good girl. She's the kind of girl that wants to get married and have children and, kind of shop at Ball Harbor and be taken care of. Yeah, maybe at one point sounds good, right? And amen, and God bless y'all who are doing that, because I think it's beautiful. But now, if you ask who Janine Davis is, and when I spoke to him not too long ago, he told me, he's like, who is this woman? What a curious, and I was like, this is a woman who wants to own Ball Harbor, and like, no, or just set the world on fire with something. And I don't think I've ever allowed myself to really feel that and really be in that space. And I think for me, that's my big why right now. It's like curiosity of like, wow, where's that fire coming from? And that's what gets me up 5 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the morning and has me now driving from, South Beach to the thing and like, and just really on purpose. And yes, getting my butt kicked and experiencing things that I never expected to experience, and being challenged to grow a little more and to grow a little more. And I'm with you sometimes. Sometimes I'm sick of the growth. Like when does it get to be a little bit different? But most of the time I swing back to that, like, okay, what else you got? What else you got? Come on, let's keep going. There's got to be a better way, and I'm not quitting until I find it, until I get my silver lining and I sail into the sunset. I'm not willing to like quit, whatever it looks like. I'm not married to the vehicle in which that happens, but I'm married to the vision.
Okay, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we will be right back. And for those of you watching on our makeshift Facebook, we will stick with you. We'll be right back.
Farrell Law Firm, standing up to corporate bullies, using innovative, aggressive, and effective strategies to resolve disputes effectively and timely. Contact us at 954-252-9818, online at farrelllawfirm.com, and on Facebook at Farrell Law Firm. We look forward to being of service to you.
You've been listening to the Momentum Mindset Show
with Jay and Janine. Give us a call at 888-565-1470. And now back to the show.
And welcome back to the Momentum Mindset Show.
Welcome back, everybody. We were doing a kind of like, so we've got the Facebook Live going on my phone right now, and so we were kind of like filling in the segment with off on the commercial from the radio of what goes on behind the scenes. So there are other people in the studio. I'm not just looking off into yonder because I have some condition that would compel me to do so. we have producers, we have friends of the show, and people who come in, and so we look off yonder every now and then.
So, beginning of the year, right? We started talking about what's next for us and for our listeners. We still have some time left, so our number is 888-565-1470.
Yes.
I'm still good at that.
Call in somebody.
888-565-1470. We are live on the radio, and this might be the last time for a little bit that the Momentum Mindset Show is going to be on the radio, but we are going to be...
And stay tuned, though, for announcements.
We're going to stay tuned for announcements. And there's the it's a fluid situation. It's like we don't...
It's a very fluid situation.
I was like looking at this show, this thing on online today, and it was the lunar eclipse coming up.
Is that what's happening?
But there was.
Are you guys going to play next week?
So our producer is asking us if we're going to play next week. Tell us.
Well, we're going to bring, because I'm bringing the keyboard, and you were going to sing. Remember that? Yeah. See, we don't talk as much as we used to.
What day? No, it's so true. Like we have
this,
so many things to talk about, and we're.
We are those American people that aren't getting anything done but work all the time. I mean, we get stuff done. I'm sorry, we do get stuff done, and we would love to bring our music there, because we had actually bought this keyboard. Funny enough,
for
the show, and it was one of those exercises where I had just traded in one of my keyboard, or I sold it. right? And then
because we're like,
Yeah,
we're
we
not.
don't-
It's not being used, and what a waste, and yada
and
yada.
then I was like, and then we came up with this concept for this show, and it's like we needed to get a couple grand together to buy the keyboard, the speakers, stuff like that. We brought it up for like one show, and then we just didn't bring it up again. So anyway, part of the thing that we'd like to highlight this year is some of the other things that we do,
yes,
and that's music.
yes.
And we would like to share that with the audience. So yes, we're going to be doing that. And again, it's a
Absolutely.
fluid situation. I'm not making a commitment promise yet. It's a possibility that this week or next week.
Yeah, we're
coming.
working on it, and once we do make our announcements, they're going to be super intentional, and we're excited to work on something for everybody, for education purposes, for entertainment purposes, for interactive purposes, and our commitment is to bring forth content that is thoughtful and intentional and meaningful.
So this picture of the moon had like the eclipse going on, but it was right at the time that it's hitting the water, and it looked like someone. And it looked like someone said, and the caption was, "Full moon looks like devil rising," and it looked like two horns were coming out of the water. Just like those people that see Jesus in a t-shirt or
In
a
a
tree
cheese sandwich.
right, or a cheese sandwich. So it was like that, and I was like, wow, is that what was going on? And I think it was about the same time that you were coming into my office, and I was like looking at this picture, right, of the
Oh, okay? I didn't know that you were looking at the pictures.
of the moon, and I was thinking about how many how many times I'm thinking about seeing like omens and what's about to happen and what's coming up, and I think that the creepier the omen, the better things are going to happen. I don't know if I've ever.
So you have the reverse sentiment about it. So, okay,
yes.
I get it. Oh, all right, that's interesting.
Because most people are like, "Oh my God, it's a devil," blah blah blah, and like it's like Armageddon. I'm like, no, I'm about to get paid.
You know what, Jay? I love it. But see, okay, so you bring out something so amazing. We were talking about it at the top of the show, which is all of our beliefs are weird.
Yeah.
All of our beliefs are bizarre. And at the end of the day, we're choosing what we believe anyway.
So I'm gonna.
So if I choose to, going back to if you choose to believe that two horns rising out of the ocean or whatever is actually a good omen, then it is. If I choose to believe that no matter what comes into our space and our reactions are our first reactions, and then I get to insulate myself for them and wait for a better, more productive second reaction, I get to believe that all day long. It's whatever works.
So there's this piece of property near my girlfriend's house where I'm living down in Coral Gables, and it's empty, and it's in Coral Gables, which means that it's like a burial ground. And I go there at night with Mitchell. Listen, this is good because
Please don't put Mitchell into this. You know he's sacred.
No, listen. What I've been doing though.
Mitchell is the Boston Terrier.
What I've been doing though is I've been talking to the spirits that are out at this place, and I've been asking them. So, wait a second. I'm giving them a shout out on the radio. I promised them that I would. Listen. I was talking to this empty vacant lot of land at like midnight last night because I was thinking to myself, you know what? I've not tried this. So I started talking. You know what happened this morning? I go past the same vacant land. It's not as creepy during the day, although it's still got a little vibe to it. And there was like a new form of pavement right where the sidewalk was, and then there was all these like raked up leaves and branches and stuff like that weren't there last night. I was like, you know what? I'm getting paid soon.
See? Okay, beautiful. I love these omens that
Because
you are seeing.
what I'm thinking is that I can use these little messages from the universe
Yes.
because I actually went to work today thinking, wait a second, it's going to be a good day. Things are turning around because of this. And as weird as that sounds, again,
Doesn't sound-
with
I mean, it's a
with
little
the
weird,
paper, okay, a little bit weird, but even with the paper
not
towels
really.
that I continue to put up and the other things that I do, I take a cold shower every single day. I'm now washing, I'm flossing, and I'm cleaning in between my toes and things. I know that every single thing that I'm doing is creating a new neural pathway, and I give crazy examples about what I'm doing, but I change it up because I want things to change. And I'm always telling the universe how committed I am to change, as weird as it might be. If I see a piece of vacant land, it's burial ground. And if it's a burial ground, I'm going to speak to the spirits. And I'm going to ask the spirits for support and help. And then I'm going to look for like little things that are around there, because I will do anything that is going to allow my physical body to start creating those new neural pathways.
Right. And on my end,
you want to do a new battleground too?
You know what? I'm with you. I will pee on a spark plug if I thought it would help. So I'm equally committed. But for me, I think a lot of things that have shown up, good, bad, or indifferent, but things that are certainly changing the conversation, have a lot to do with my radical honesty of late, which at times I think can be a little unpalatable, because you told me something that is got to be the best thing you've ever told me in the time that we've known each other. And you've said a lot of really amazing things and some not so amazing things. And that's okay. And I'm focusing on the amazing things. What? I'm focusing on the amazing things right now. But what you said is that when I eat it, or I don't express myself, or I stay silent to keep the peace, what I'm actually doing is keeping us both sick. And that became something in my inner being that actually was like, freedom. And I was just like, here we go. And it just kind of like liberated something inside of me and pushed that next level of commitment for me. Because I stand for a lot of things, and I'm a very, very loving person. And so keeping us both sick is inconsistent with who I really am. And if it takes uncomfortable conversations and a little bit of, pushback, I trust, again, myself enough, and really the foundation of a years-long friendship to be able to be strong enough to withstand that in service to healing, in service to growth, and in service to next level, which is what I'm interested in. So keep talking to the burial ground, and I'll keep on being honest, and let's see what we can create.
and serving as an interruption, as I said, like, Americans are lazy, right? Like, those are the things, like, you listen to, it's like, wait, what does he say? And then you pay attention to the rest because someone served as an interruption. To the extent that you're doing what you're doing, it serves as an interruption to patterns.
Yes.
And everything that serves as an interruption to an automatic pattern supports the creation of something different, something new, a possibility. Because when you have the opportunity to stop and choose an experience, to stop and choose how you feel, that is transformation in real time.
And that's personal power.
That's personal
in
power.
Real time.
So it'll continue to tag me, all this stuff, all the
and my radical honesty
all the
will
loving
tag you.
all the loving interruptions that I have. And I will continue to use. So it wasn't just the burial ground that I was at. Like, you go to Disney World and they give you your own ghost. That at the Haunted Mansion, they give you your own ghost, and I still think that guy's with me. You know which one I'm talking about. And I think
Is his name Casper?
No. That's no. The haunted house gives you a ghost. They said,
have 2 minutes left.
And someone might be coming with you. I'm like, cool, because I know I wouldn't have to do my homework.
something really
I've asked him to
strange
do my
to tell
homework.
you.
He's done invisible homework. Wait. I asked him to clean my room. He's invisibly cleaned my room. My mom hated that guy. But I'm saying, I still think that invisible ghost is with me only all the time, basically supporting my transformation. I hope you guys have an invisible ghost and an awesome week. We will be back one way or the other.
Back. Yeah, one way, and we'll be in touch with you. And
David, thank you. Lori, thank you
so much for everybody who has been tuning in and sharing our experience.
Jonathan,
have a fantastic weekend.
have a fantastic
Keep going,
weekend.
y'all.
Keep
going.
going.
Stay curious.
Yeah, stay awesome. Thank you for listening to the Momentum Mindset Show. For your hosts, Jay and Janine, we'll see you here next week. Thank you for being real, authentic, and honest.
If you'd like to reach us, please contact us on our Facebook page, The Momentum Mindset Show, or on our office phone line, which is 954-559-6987.
We are stronger together.
And remember, keep going.
.3 FM, 96.9 FM, 103.9 FM, and AM 1470. WWNN Pompano Beach is the Florida Money Talk Network.
Here's the latest from ABC News. I'm Alex Stone. There was more than one attack. That's what two U.S. officials are telling ABC News about the night a drone strike took out a top Iranian general. Another strike, this one unsuccessful, was targeting the compound of military commander Abdul Reza Shalai.
By the morning, the U.S. knew that they had failed to kill him, according to a U.S. counterterrorism official. The Iranian commander is said to have been the man in charge of that missile and drone attack on Saudi oil facilities late last year. That's the one that led to a 5% drop in the flow of oil worldwide. It showed that Iran was capable of launching a surprise attack on another country, and really led to the inflow of even more U.S. forces to the Middle East.
ABC's Louis Martinez at the Pentagon. New economic sanctions for Iran. They're focused on 8 senior Iranian officials who are accused in not just Tuesday's retaliatory missile strike on U.S. bases in Iraq, but what the White House describes as destabilizing activities in the Middle East.
We will cut off billions of dollars of support to the Iranian regime, and we will continue our enforcement of other entities.
Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin. Ukrainian investigators now have access to the flight data recorders from a Ukrainian Airlines jet that crashed this week in Iran, killing all 176 people on board.
We're analyzing the chemical residues on the body of the plane. We will come to our conclusions. We don't want to come to them right now.
The country's foreign minister saying it's too soon to figure out a cause. He may be best known as the iconic drummer for the band Rush. Neil Peart also wrote some of the band's iconic lyrics. The band says he died this week of brain cancer. Peart was 67. British authorities are requesting the extradition of Anne Sekulis, a wife of an American diplomat, is accused of killing teenager Harry Dunn last year in a motor vehicle accident. Sekulis was given diplomatic immunity. This is ABC News.
What's a Zoom room? It's what your conference room is meant to be, with flawless video and audio conferencing, instant wireless content sharing from any device, and just one tap of a button to start a meeting. Any space can easily become a modern, simple-to-use Zoom room, from huddle rooms to executive offices to huge training rooms. And whether you have a few rooms or a few thousand, Zoom Rooms is effortlessly scalable. Sign up online for a free 30-day trial of Zoom Rooms and meet happy with Zoom. Brought to you by Attorney Tax. If you're in trouble with the IRS and owe at least $10,000 in back taxes, listen to this important public announcement. The IRS is now offering a special program called the Fresh Start Initiative, which can offer significantly reduced settlements that can reduce your liability by thousands of dollars. If you're approved and qualified, the IRS will stop the collections against you. Get the help you need by calling the Consumer Hotline, 800-333-9896, 800-333-9896.
It takes a whole lot more effort to get something started in your life than it does to keep it moving.
Del Walmsley has moved thousands of radio listeners closer to a great life. The Del Walmsley Show is now on in South Florida on Talk 1470, Monday at 5, Tuesday through Friday at noon. Listen and move towards your great life today. The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those with the Siegel brothers. Dr. Ricky Siegel is a certified sex therapist, educator, and supervisor, and his brother Larry Siegel is a clinical sexologist and certified sexuality educator. The Siegel brothers are here to answer all your questions about sex and sexuality, but we're unsure who to ask, including questions you didn't even know you had. They will also welcome guests from around the globe to talk about a wide variety of topics and issues within the fascinating world of sexuality. Thank you for joining us, and welcome to Sex Talk.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us on Sex Talk with the Siegel Brothers. My name is Dr. Richard Siegel, a certified sex therapist.
And I'm Larry Siegel, a clinical sexologist and certified sexuality educator.
And of course, my super awesome big brother.
Yeah, still the role I enjoy the most.
I'm thrilled, as I am every week, to be able to have this opportunity to do our favorite thing, to talk about sex and whine and complain and get outraged.
Right? Especially whining and complaining and getting outraged about how we can't talk about sex.
We're in the right field. Yeah, unfortunately, we as a society, culturally, continue to have an embarrassed and awkward and uncomfortable relationship with sex. So all of our conversations, including nonsense over language, when we have serious health issues to contend with that continue to be ignored because of our discomfort.
That's right.
Because it's sex.
That's right.
I mean, this ridiculous example I used to use of embarrassed parents sitting with their kid at the bathroom sink, having the talk about oral health and hygiene. And there's toothbrush and toothpaste and floss, but they're red-faced and mortified, and they say, "Oh, put some of this stuff on this thing and rub it on your thingies and go to bed." And what is wrong with you? Who would be that crazy? But sexual health and hygiene, a whole different ballgame.
Right.
We can't talk about that.
Right.
So we use ridiculous language, pee-pee, poo-poo, la-la, hoo-hoo, cha-cha. And then
doing it.
And then we get into dirty words as we grow up.
That's right.
And of course.
And having said all that, we want to welcome everybody to Sex Talk with the Siegel Brothers.
We forgot to say hello in our usual intro. Yes, we're on the radio in South Florida. If you're listening, welcome. We're on a couple FM, a couple AM stations. I don't even have the list today.
I'm sure most of you are listening to us on 95.3, some of you perhaps on 1470 AM, and we also have 96.3, our newer edition. Thank you, 740 AM. Welcome as well.
Thank you, our wonderful producer, Freddie, for expanding our reach. And we're also streaming live on Facebook, so if you're joining us there,
thank you for watching.
Thanks and welcome, and please hit that like and share button, because we all should be talking about sex.
That's right, and these should be grown-up conversations. Right? We should be able to put on our big people pants.
That's right.
And sit at the table like grown-ups and talk about these things as grown-ups, as mature people, as people who understand that this is an integral part of life.
Human beings are sexual beings. Not something one can opt out of. Isn't it ridiculous still in the 21st century, sex ed programs in schools have to worry about getting signed consent forms from parents, and more and more often they're not opt out, like I refuse to allow my kid to be in the class, but opt in.
Right.
Like the parents have to say, yes, please allow my child to have.
And again, you know
sex
what's
ed.
really behind that too is that they know most of the kids are losing the permission forms, and their general hope, and I've spoken to principals about this over the years, their general hope is that they just don't even have to deal with it. Right? Hey, if every kid loses their permission slip, oh well, I guess we don't have to have the class.
Yeah. One of the biggest lies of all was, are you school board approved? When every principal has autonomy to bring whatever.
Well, here in Palm Beach
programming-
County, can't speak to the rules in other places, but absolutely in Palm Beach County, the official school board policy is home rule. So if a principal and a teacher want to do this and want to have a program like this come into their school, that's all they need. But again, it's that sort of political hot potato. Nobody wants to be accountable. Nobody wants to take the responsibility.
Right.
So the principals are basically saying, well, we have to get approval by the school board. And there was this committee that they like to say had to approve it. Now,
Yeah.
I was on that committee.
I remember those meetings.
It was just an
The
advisory
Health
committee.
Education Resource Committee.
Right. We were an advisory committee, but the
Right.
principals wanted to make it sound like an approval was necessary from that committee, so they didn't have to make the decision.
Committee members, including folks from Right to Life, who were downright liberal next to the Eagle Forum.
Yes.
And trying to get on with health department folks, school board folks, folks like Planned Parenthood, Healthy Mothers, Healthy Babies. So you're right. It was, citizens who would fight and argue over curricula or speakers, people like us.
Right.
And then the school board say, well, this committee didn't approve, and the principal has this, this excuse.
Right. And I think
Now,
it's important also.
It's interesting, I'm sorry to interrupt. Interestingly, the quote-unquote official sex ed curriculum for the entire school district, one of the largest in the country,
that I chaired the development
that's right,
of.
and we're very involved from the beginning, is a comprehensive, medically accurate, reality-based kindergarten through 12th grade, kind of what we would advocate as good sex ed, and it doesn't happen.
Right. No,
And,
no.
and practically all the schools in the county, in the district, doesn't happen.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right.
And I think one of the reasons, and what I wanted to point out, and why we do often get so involved and so worked up about these kinds of things is it's not just about what happens in school. It's not just about, a preference for a program or not. This has real life implications. When we talk about how people are forming their relationships, when we talk about the issues that people have and the difficulties people have with intimacy, and certainly their sexual functioning and sexual relationships,
And relationships
in general.
with their own bodies.
And that's where it begins. So, we're talking about really, truly robbing people of the opportunity to learn about one of the most fundamental and one of the most important aspects of themselves. And, it's sort of that old analogy of booby-trapping the cookie jar.
Right.
Right? Because we don't want them to do certain things. We're going to set it up so they get hurt if they do.
Right.
That'll learn them kind of thing.
Remember, there was actually opposition to the HPV vaccine.
Right.
With this insane idea that, if kids aren't afraid of contracting HPV, then they'll be wanton sluts.
Well, it was an offshoot of that old...
Kids even know what HPV is.
It was an offshoot of that same old nonsense about if you talk to people, and particularly young people, about healthy sexuality and safer sex, that gives them permission. So let's also be very clear for everybody listening, everybody watching out here, if you are a parent, please know this. It's a simple idea. Your kids do not want your permission. Your kids do not need your permission. Get over yourself.
What a creepy conversation.
And raise your kids smart.
When has that ever happened? Mom, Dad, I'm going to go out tonight. Can I use the car? And is it okay if I have sex? That's never happened.
No, I mean, because it's the same kind of thing. It's like, Mom, can I borrow your diaphragm?
Oh!
No, it is not going to happen. These are ridiculous fears. Now, again, we as therapists, we as educators, have basically our entire careers, our entire livelihoods are based on the fallout of all of this nonsense.
Right.
Right. So, on the one hand, those parents that, I'm likely to scold, well, thank you.
Well,
you kind of pay my mortgage.
Job security is not
so, but I
fear.
would like to see us out of a job. But until that happens, there are important points that have to be put out, and I think we're very fortunate tonight to have a guest who's on the line.
Oh, good.
Who has joined us. You want to go ahead and introduce him?
Sure. I'm really happy that Jim Fleckenstein is joining us this evening. Jim, are you on the line with us?
I am.
There you
Hey,
are.
Jim. How are you?
We have audio. I think
doing great.
Are we working on video? Is it possible?
No video tonight.
Maybe having some technical difficulties, but
I can see me.
good. And how are you
I
looking?
have the little window.
Yes. No, I'm one of the reasons I'm excited to have you on the show. Well, first of all, your wonderful new book. I'm glad we have the chance to talk about that, and I'm glad it seems like we're kind of beating the rush, because I suspect you're going to be in high demand, because this is an important book and folks are going to want to talk to you about it. So
I sure hope so.
thanks for agreeing to come on.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
Also because you're one of those folks that we've known for years from conferences, but never really had the chance to hang out. And so I've been looking forward to this chance just to talk and get to know you a little bit more and get to know about your work. And I'm especially curious to know how this book came about, since you can correct me if this was a misperception, but I've known you as an expert in areas such as consensual non-monogamy and polyamory and kink, and how you've come to write this wonderful relationship book that's perfectly accessible and on the mark for everybody, not kinky folks, but what we might describe as vanilla, most average relationships.
Yeah, mainstream relationships. That's
Sure.
exactly the audience it was intended for. I mean, I've been around the field of sexuality and education and relationships and stuff for almost 20 years. And I have spent a lot of my time as an educator and as a researcher in the consensual non-monogamy community. But as I helped people in that community deal with the issues that come up there, I kind of developed a philosophy of approaching relationships in general, that I said, there's a lot here that is perfectly applicable regardless of the structure of your relationship. And so I've been kind of trying to broaden my scope a little bit, and this book is one of the first outcomes of that. It's definitely informed by my history in working with people in the polyamory and consensual non-monogamy community. But as you correctly point out, it is not necessary to be from that world to benefit from it.
Right, right. And we've long said that again, so-called vanilla, or I like the word you use, mainstream folks have a lot to learn from kinky folks.
We often cite communication and
half of our
negotiation.
field wants to pathologize certain paraphilias and what people usually broadly refer to as kink. You won't find a better example of really clear, like you were saying before, mature, grown-up communication, boundary setting, discussions. We were saying this last week, right? It shouldn't be easier to have sex than to have a conversation about it.
Right. As we often used to say, it shouldn't be easier to have sex in the dark when you can't talk about it with the light on.
Yeah.
And that's a big issue. So Jim, the book is called Love That Works, and I really want to start, asking you about this. Really, I think the main point that all of this sits on, and this is a term that you have come up with, and this idea of affirmative intimacy, right? Which is just such a great concept.
Yeah, could you just start off just explaining what you mean by that?
Well, as you correctly point out, people don't talk about intimacy. They're not well trained in how to handle intimacy. you just had a great little riff there on sex education and the absence thereof. And affirmative intimacy is about taking control. It's about actually not being passive, not lying back and thinking of England or waiting and hoping that something good's going to happen. But it's about taking charge and taking responsibility for the intimacy that you want to have in your life. And as you correctly point out, we're all sexual beings. I mean, yes, there are people there's a spectrum, absolutely. But as a general proposition, we're sexual beings, and we want to have a satisfying and healthy sex life. And we know that doing that contributes tremendously to relationship satisfaction as a whole. The two are inextricably linked. And so my take on this is you've got to be responsible for it. And if you want to have the intimacy that you crave, you've got to do your part to achieve that. And so that's why I came up with the notion of affirmative intimacy. It is affirming, it is health affirming, it is life affirming. The whole thing is about that notion of being responsible and taking responsibility to get what you want and need in a responsible way.
Yeah, and I like that too. I would also add on that I think affirmative also sort of implies that you've got to take some kind of positive step. It's an action word itself, as well. That I think there's this tendency for a lot of people to think about how a good relationship just happens. Yeah. And that as long as we both really want it, that old romantic trope, which I think has been way more destructive than any type of expression of violence in the media, that old romantic thing where we don't have anything, everybody's against us, but as long as we love each other, everything will be okay. Right? I mean, that's just doomed to failure. Right? So a good relationship has to be affirmatively created. It has to be there has to be intention behind the action.
Right. Precisely.
And I think you in how you go, I don't want to give too much of the book away, but certainly this idea of that concept of affirmative intimacy sitting on these 4 pillars that you talk about, this foundation of how people can really create, as you say, the relationship they want.
Right.
So can you talk maybe a little bit about those foundational pieces, those pillars that you described?
Yeah, I mean, we all stand on the shoulders of giants. I'm not perfectly original here. I have borrowed concepts from a lot of really smart people in a number of different fields to kind of create this synthesis that I have created and call affirmative intimacy. And but there's one piece of it that nobody else has gotten onto, and it's actually the first pillar, and it's what I call safe space.
Right.
Yeah.
So much of the work of previous therapists and counselors and educators and so forth and relationship geniuses sort of said, okay, here's what you got to do. Here's my list of rules and practices you should do. And assumed that people were going to come into a situation where they could start applying those rules and practices without any preparation. It was just from a standing start, go.
Right.
And I said, I've seen it. That's a prescription for a train wreck. Right. If people are not in a place where they can apply these rules and practices, they're not going to work. They're just so much hot air. And as therapists and educators, when we're sitting down with people, it's incumbent on us to kind of hold space for the people to listen to what we have to say and share with us what they have to say so we can help them. But, when they try it at home, they don't have the skills. They don't have that mediator sitting there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was thinking that too, that people can't take for granted that even, their own bedroom in their own home may very likely not be a safe space if folks don't have, some basic communication skills and kindness and affection for one another.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and to reaffirm that in an obvious and straightforward way, because, when emotions are high and tensions are high and people are feeling hot or they're feeling put upon or they're feeling afraid, you want to step back from that first and say, we're here because we love each other. We're here because I respect you. We're here because this relationship is worth having and worth fighting for. And I really appreciate your courage in being willing to be engage with me around this and be honest with me around this. And you need to set that stage and say, you know, whatever we're disagreeing about or whatever we're going to talk about that may be painful or may be problematic, it doesn't change who we are and how we feel about each other. And that sets the stage for everything else.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And you know, one of the things I really also like about that point that you were making in the book is that it's not just, you know, when we talk about safe space, and especially from that kind of millennial perspective, that it seems to be more about what you need to do to make sure I am safe. Yet the perspective I see that you're putting out with that is, no, what do I need to do here in order to help make this space safe for me? And I have to say, I am such a huge fan of a point that you make, because it's so close to a point that we've been making for years.
Which one? The Q-tip,
this Q-tip.
Right? Kudos, Jim.
Yeah,
That's
Q-tip.
spot
I
on.
mean, it really is. Quit taking it personally.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, I've for years talked about what I just consider a beautiful irony, that it really takes a tremendous ego, a tremendous degree of narcissism to have low self-esteem and to be insecure. And the tendency for so many people in their relationships is that if you're talking about yourself, if you're telling me about something that you're experiencing, I should not be taking it personally. And that, I think, is something so many people do, that's a trap so many people get caught up into. Everything gets taken personally.
And
it's always about me.
Yeah.
It's about me.
I'm a huge fan also of, well, I mean, it's hard to even put these into a priority kind of list, right? But your discussion of differentiation of self
so huge.
cannot be emphasized strongly enough, because way too many of us, again, these unwritten scripts, way too many of us lose their individuality. And there's this this kind of sense that if you're in a relationship, you're not entitled to privacy anymore. Even too many therapists drank that Kool-Aid. Everything's a toxic secret. When there's aspects of our sexuality that, you know, if I have a fantasy that I know would anger or disgust my partner, aren't I entitled to keep it to myself? And why would I risk damaging the relationship?
You should be.
Right?
Yeah.
You should be.
I mean, that's the thing.
Be in a relationship and maintain the self. I'm sorry, Jim. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, you know, at some point, hopefully, by using the other tools that I offer up, you'll be in a place where you can share those fantasies and not have it be a problem. But until you're ready, there should be yours to hold and not a problem. And that's the thing. Society sends all these messages about enforced togetherness. And the research shows very clearly that when people enter into a marriage or enter into a cohabiting relationship, their contact with their friend network decreases, their contact with their family network decreases. You know, it becomes this insular thing, and they give up the former hobbies and interests, the things that attracted their partner to them in the first place, they give those up.
Absolutely.
And all of a sudden, you're not that person anymore. And I think that's highly unhealthy.
Right.
I'm really sorry that our time just flies by way too quickly, and we have to have you come back on real soon for a part 2 to continue the conversation. But is the book out or coming out?
Yes.
It's out.
People can go directly and pick it up at ltwthebook.com.
Okay, LTW for Love That Works. So ltwthebook.com.
thebook.com.
I imagine it'll be on Amazon anytime soon.
And it is on Amazon right now. The paperback and the ebook are on Amazon. Paperback is also available in other major retailers, and also from my direct website that I just gave you the URL for.
All right.
Excellent. But yeah, I would definitely love to have you come in and talk more about this, because it's just so rich, and there's so many things that are so beneficial to so many people.
And the music means we just have time to thank you once again, and encourage everyone to pick up a copy of Love That Works. Thanks to Jim Fleckenstein, and thanks to everyone for joining us. Join us next Friday and every Friday for Sex Talk with the Siegel Brothers.
And thank you. Have a great week.
You've been listening to Sex Talk with the Siegel Brothers. Join us every Monday night at 9 p.m. on WNN, 1470 AM and 95.3 FM. Or watch live streaming video at AMP2 TV Productions on Facebook, or look for the shows on YouTube. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope you'll join us again next week. The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were strict.